Hello, everyone, and welcome once again back to Comic Banter, the show where we just talk about comics and what we loved about them as we grew up. With me, as always, is my convention comrade, Victor Segura.
Hello, all.
And joining us today is the artist of the series Necessary Evil from Joshua Williamson, Marcus Harris.
It's like that was a ways back, but yeah, folks in the chat might know me better as Critter Paladin, the guy that won't shut up.
There you go. Critter Paladin on a variety of Twitch streams and stuff. So definitely, if you see him in the comments, be like, hey, wait, I know that guy. So today we are jumping back into Marvel Universe Series 3. We just wrapped up the villains, and we're going to be jumping into the cosmic beings. But before we kind of dive into all the cards and so forth, long week. I'm sorry. So forth. I want to hear, Marcus, what was your experience with comic cards growing up? Like, what was the kind of thing that got you into comic cards, or how did they affect your collecting?
I don't remember exactly how I started, but I know that I think the first series that I got, and I think we've talked about this, and it's reflected in our comic frames, is that my first comic cards that I can remember having, that I've got right here in front of me, actually, are the 91 Marvel series. And I had, before that, I'd picked up a few issues years before of the official handbooks of the Marvel Universe series, and I love those things. Those things were just, they were so great. And basically the Marvel cards just seemed like a new, smaller version of that. And I didn't have the funds to pick up all the comics that I would have liked back then. And so that was really a great way to kind of learn about some of the other characters I was less familiar with.
Yeah, those Marvel Universe were great. Victor and I have talked about them. They're awesome too, because depending on how you're coming into comics, like visually, you had the full turnarounds for every character. Like, if I want to draw this character, I know now, like, this is his 3/4, this is his back, here's his front. I can draw this character now. I have that point of reference. It was awesome.
Totally. And great artists on that series too.
Oh yeah. One thing, DC did a pretty good one too. Their Who's Who was a good mirror of that. And they actually had, theirs were interesting too, because they put them almost in they put 3 hole punches in them, and they had it so that you essentially, if you bought like the whole set, you could also get a binder and put them all inside of it.
The cards?
No, their Who's Who.
The Who's Who books, right?
Yeah, so like they came out with their version, which was like, we'll just do it in a shrink wrapped, and it has the 3 hole punches.
So like the old monster manuals from D&D, yeah.
Yeah. So you just like put it all together and you're set. Like, this is what you need. And
that's really cool. I never had those.
Yeah. And didn't the official handbook try to do that like 1 year towards the end when they stopped before the 2000s?
Maybe, but I don't remember that part.
I just remember like the format of it, the marketing format for it. It was very plain, kind of boring. Like there was more splashiness when it was still in the comic book format. I think it's DC was the one that started, and that's why Marvel decided to kind of jump on that little bandwagon to try to do the same thing. And I think it just stopped right after that.
Yeah, and it's like it's always kind of cool because, like you said, like we've talked about it before too. It's like that was your Wikipedia. Like you didn't know how. I mean, you're not going to be able to go back and read the original comics, so it's like, how else are you going to learn? Like, the Hulk did this. He originally fought here, and his powers are this. Like he can do that. He can see. His eyes are so strong. He can see the astral plane, which is something I learned much later in life.
I'm learning it right now.
I know, like, dude, it's one of those things where I'm like, wait, he can what?
I do remember I do remember some stories where he could see ghosts or something, and I always thought that was strange.
Yeah, it's his. I don't know how that correlated. Like, my brain's like, because he sees Doctor Strange too at one point. He sees ghosts. His eyes are just that strong.
Yeah. Gamma powered rods and cones.
Angry. I can see you. And like that was an interesting one too. Also in the Marvel Universe, the X-Men ones, they get to a point where they note that Gambit has a latent mental ability that he can has like mutant charisma. So he's like, hey guys, he can convince people stuff. I'm like, there's mutant charisma? Like that's That's
well,
a
why not?
thing?
There's reading everything else, but I've got those cards right here. I'm going to read that. That's
Yeah,
if I actually got the Gambit card, that might be one of the rare ones. I don't know.
It's for the third set of the.
Okay, so it wasn't the first Jim Lee set.
No, not the first Jim Lee set.
That's the only one that I had.
Yeah, it's a great set to have. Trust me, like that's top tier. That's god level. Like if you go to the top 5 card sets of all time, that's going to be on everyone's top 5. But yeah, like that's I think it's a lot of people got into it. And also cards were more affordable back then. And I don't like where these conversations are going.
Everything was.
I'm curious.
Back in my day.
But the cards were so affordable. You could buy a pack and just be like, okay, well, you learn about characters you would have never picked up in a series because it's not likely you're going to jump onto like, oh, here's a random thing that's like, oh, here's
Union Jack,
and you're just like, wait, Union Jack fought a vampire. Like what? He fought vampires. Okay?
That was his thing, man. He was Union Jack, the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah. Like before we had Blade, we had Union Jack, and then we had Spitfire and the All Winners Squad. Am I remembering correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, that was one of the World War II teams. I think there's another one. So
yeah, that's definitely one of those ones where I'm like, okay, yeah, like did you find characters you wouldn't have thought of? So yeah. I mean, is there anything currently that you're collecting now that that was brought to you by cards, you think, or?
Ooh, that's a good question. I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, I guess the way I think about the cards is in a lot of ways they were a lot like the old Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends series, where it was like a stepping stone into the bigger Marvel universe kind of a thing.
Yeah. That was there's so many series that are like that. I mean, of course, a lot of people's touch points, depending on your age, is the 90s X-Men cartoon and the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, which are great cartoons, but it's like I'm older, so like for me it was Firestar, Iceman, and Spider-Man.
Absolutely.
Like, those are my 3, and little did I know they never really had adventures aside from like a few specifically made for that series.
Right.
It's funny how many times they've kind of just like offhandedly teamed them up. Just like a random thing here and there,
and like in the Ultimate Universe too, yeah, well, like a version of them, right? Yeah,
because they had,
or was it Human Torch? I think it was Human Torch that they did it, but it kind of felt like that, right?
Iceman too, though, yeah,
it was Iceman, Human Torch instead of Firestar and Spider-Man, as I recall from the Bendis series, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, they had a different.
They had a different. It was
like
else,
Liz Allen had mutant powers.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, you got Victor. You're the man.
I got to use this knowledge somewhere. So
there was. Was she Firestar? Or was she just? Did she ever come up with a name, or just that she had powers?
She had a name, and it could have been Fire. It was a already existing name in the 616 universe.
Okay.
It could have been Firestar. I can't remember. But yeah, I remember she had like the mutant phobia, and then she comes to turn out to be a mutant herself, and it was the fire powers. So it was her, Iceman, and Spidey teaming up. So that Bendis kind of did his little twist on it.
Yeah, his little nod. One last thing too before we jump into it, we still have some of the fantastic variants given to us by John Boy Myers, so definitely have those comments coming. We want to hear what you have to say. If we think it's particularly hilarious, you can very easily win one of those John Boy Myers Venom covers, and we're happy to get them out to you. Marcus actually won one last week. We're going to get it to him sometime this week. I believe we also have.
If you win, maybe you'll be on next week too.
There you go. You're giving away the farm, buddy. What are you doing? It's the top tier prize.
I have no power here. Don't listen to me.
All right, so I think we are ready to just jump into it. I need to change some branding on our side. A little bit of this. And we're starting off this week with The Collector, which is it's funny because like I don't even remember this version of The Collector in the comics. Like when I remember seeing him, he was slightly different. He was less majestic and almost like not necessarily his body armor, but less imposing when I first remember seeing him. But I'm hard pressed to think of this giant Goliath of a character as The Collector. So I mean, if either of you have some more memories of him, please let me know.
None at all. as I warned the guys at the top of the stream when we were off stream, it was like this is like the worst episode for me because the Marvel cosmic thing was not something I was big into in the 90s, unless it was X-Men, like Ken was mentioning.
Yeah.
My response is exactly like yours, though, Ken. Like, I know the Collector. This version just doesn't click with me. I don't remember this version of it. I just remember him in other stories, and you look completely different.
Yeah. And like, I mean, our chat is actually, let's catch up on chat real quick, saying that I bet Union Jack is pissed he wasn't Captain Britain because we were talking about Union Jack fighting vampires. Then Kareem says, I wonder if he accepted the name after losing the bid with Captain Britain, and that Braddocks don't share with outsiders. That's, that I don't know if that's true because they like with Kawan and Betsy Braddock, there's a whole thing going on, and they shared. Maybe it was just forced on him though, so I don't know.
So here's the question though, and maybe I just haven't read enough Captain Britain. I got into it more with the Excalibur stuff. But was there a Captain Britain during World War II? Because if so, it's the other way around, isn't it? Union Jack came first.
Union Jack in printing form, Union Jack did come first. I think there were some stories where they flashed back to a World War II version of Captain Britain that did cross over, but like publication wise, yeah, Captain Britain did come after Union Jack, and it was actually in Amazing Spider-Man, wasn't it, Ken? That Captain Britain, yeah, actually
Marvel team up, yeah,
Marvel team up. So and that was basically Spider-Man and someone else.
Sitting on my coffee table downstairs, actually, right now.
Nice.
That's one that I think they did a really good oversized artist artist proof edition. IDW did. I think they did at least a cover or one of those within one of those books. And those things are, if you want like classic art just in black and white, they're great, but they are not the most inexpensive thing. But they are a great coffee table book and like centerpiece to start discussion. So
but John Byrne, great stuff.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I threw up Captain Britain here because we were suddenly turning into the Captain Britain hour, so I figured we'd have him up on screen.
I blame the chat.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you're reading the current Ten of Swords, that's a pretty big plot point that came in last week and this week. So tease if you haven't read it.
There you go. We definitely, let's see what happened here. Sorry to inform you, you went with someone else. Your Union Jacker Teamster Terry. Teamster Terry was discontinued with Hoffa's disappearance. Things are changing in the chat quickly.
A whole other show.
We're salty and we're like 5 minutes in. Oh, 15.
We're not even talking about the Collector.
Nope. But now we are, because he's like, oh shit, the power rankings are back. I need to get my drink. Yes, because the Collector is triple Punisher smarts. That's clear.
Apparently, that's one of the drinking games. Is you have to compare him to the Punisher's intelligence, or I don't know where the Punisher set the bar for intelligence, but.
Oh man, if we start, if every time we talk about stats in the Punisher, people are gonna be drunk. You will be done. We don't condone alcohol poisoning. Please watch responsibly.
We've got the Twitch standards and practices to think about.
Yeah, that's the game. So as we were saying, this isn't the version any of us are really familiar with, but now everyone's been kind of introduced to a new version of the Collector by Benicio del Toro, and this is the MCU version of the Collector. Very different. This is I enjoy this. This actually feels more like the original comic version that I'm used to. It was a bold take the way he went with some of the stuff, and it's definitely memorable and it lands well, but at times I'm like, okay, is it a little bit over the top? But I mean, it's what's called for. So
it worked with what they created for the MCU. So yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about some of these cosmic characters, how do you go over the top?
Points.
Kind of like the whole point. Yeah.
He's still played by a human. That's not realistic.
Yeah. Did the Collector get remade as Extreme in the 90s? I mean, I'm guessing this was the 90s retake of him, of just like the He-Man character version of Collector.
I don't know. I don't see enough pouches.
No, it's true. It can't be too 90s. Yeah. The Infinity Cape though that's pretty spot on for the 90s.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean,
and characters have that too.
Yeah.
In the cards we're covering.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple of those that design. Patrick would buy that He-Man toy. I'm pretty sure it's out there with toys. They've started to make He-Man varieties of everything. There's He-Man Thundercats. There's He-Man. The
DC line.
The DC line. Yeah, there's Mortal Kombat. That. It's crazy. Like if you want,
Scott Koblish did the art for the book that was at Target, the comic that they came out with.
Yeah.
Why does a collector need a P90X physique? The question is why not? Okay. Yeah. Moving from one cosmic being to the next, we've got Galactus. Oh, I feel bad too. We didn't mention it all. Mark Texieri. I mean, Mark's always solid. It's you can see his lines are always there. It's very him.
Every card.
I do like the energy too. Like we didn't talk about it too much, but like I am doing things weird. Here we go. Pointer. The energy in his mouth. That's an interesting kind of like that. Just like the limitless power that he embodies is like that. His mouth is just an opening hole into oblivion.
Like Kirby crackle that's popping out.
I missed that was his mouth. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And he's just yawning in that picture too.
Yeah. He's not even upset. He's just like, he's tired. Moving on. Oh,
no, good.
Moving on back to Galactus by Tom Ryan. Tom Morgan. Good heavens. Folks, I apologize. I need to be drinking more, maybe.
Or period.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, Tom Morgan doing Galactus. This is it's right up his alley. It's interesting, like the use of foreshortening for his hand. It's almost at the point where it's like it's Mr. Fantastic or Plastic Man levels of it. That's how far it feels like it's reached out. It's a little funky. I'm also curious about the little orb that's next to him. Like he's like, "Hi, I'm here, and this is my leg warmer."
Yeah, the placement is strange because it almost seems like he's reaching for it, but it's behind his elbow.
Yeah.
It's just a heat warmer. You're just cold.
He's just got his elbow propped up on it.
Yeah. Is his quote supposed to make me feel better about being eaten? So confused. Though I ravage worlds to live, I bear malice to no living thing. I simply do what I must to survive. I guess so, yeah. It's just like, hey, it's nothing personal, but you're gonna die, and your whole planet's gonna die, and all you ever knew is gonna die. Best of luck. Like I
really like the portrait on the back.
Yeah, that's really strong.
Yeah.
Patrick saying, wait, how is Galactus not as smart as the collector?
Because he just eats.
Yeah,
that's all he does. He just eats.
Yeah.
And he has a machine that finds the planets he can eat. So it's like he doesn't really have to
how's he gonna learn stuff? The books would be so tiny.
Yeah. What is this? A library for ants?
Wow. We couldn't have planned that one better.
Sir. Well played.
All the collector does is hoard, but yes, hoard books. So it's like, hey, he can just keep like, oh, I want this book, I want that book. See, like this is how you get smarter. This is why the Punisher running around with guns and blazing isn't, being a valedictorian for his class.
I guess he technically eats a lot of books.
Yeah, but I mean, he like to Victor's point though, he has a machine that eats for him that transfers the matter into sustenance, and he has to have
filters.
Yeah, and he has to have a herald find the planets. So he's just like to a degree just a wandering mouth. Like he's Pac-Man, just wandering about. Except Pac-Man didn't need someone to go find planets for him. He just went out and did it. Got stuff done.
Maybe if he had those normal pellets in between the planets that were the power pellets, he wouldn't need need the heralds.
It kind of reminds me of like Slug, like just has someone feed him. Like he's like a fat person that just has someone feed them. Like they don't move, they're immobile. That's what he is. Like he has someone find him his food, and then he has a machine that feeds him. That's it.
If Pac-Man were smart, he would have gotten an assistant. I mean, there was a Pac Junior in the cartoon, so maybe that guy. I don't know.
Stretch.
Yeah, it was a stretch. I'm sorry. I apologize. If you can eat entire planets, do you really need to rank your fighting ability? I mean, no, you don't. Like if you're that big, you just kind of.
Apparently, yeah. he just steps on people. That's not a lot of like skill in that. So
no. DLUU7 is asking who else thinks he's the next MCU villain. I mean, I think we need the FF before we get to Galactus, and
I mean, don't seriously. They announced Kang, and that was the one I was hoping for. So
yeah, I don't think you dropped Galactus in the first FF movie either.
Yeah, no. Kang and Kodos are definitely who you need to have.
Yeah,
in the Marvel MCU.
Just as long as he's not a big cloud next time.
I mean, what do you mean a big cloud? Is he a big cloud?
He was in the cloud. That's what I told myself in my heart. That the purple hat was in the cloud.
So yes, for those watching at home, this is the live action version of Galactus that you got.
Rise of the Silver Surfer.
The Rise of the Silver Surfer. Yep.
The card with the big hand drew it and designed it better.
Yep. Speaking of the Herald, shouldn't he look more like the people, the Wally, rather than the Rock? Fair enough. Patrick's saying that Doom. I'm guessing he's saying that Dr. Doom should be before Galactus. I agree, but also that was another show a little while back. I don't know if you made it. Patrick, you're late to the game. Where were you, sir?
It's gonna be
I think he means in terms of movies. In terms of.
No, I know. I'm just. Cream says, just like Microsoft, to the cloud. Patrick says, Dropbox that planet. And Patrick does agree, though, or definitely thinking Doom before all.
You guys know it's going to be Mole Man. Not going to be Doom.
I'd be down for that. They've broken my heart so many times with Doom so far.
Right.
I can't handle it again.
Let's do Mole Man and watch Mole Man be better than those two.
Oh God.
I mean that's what the MCU does, right? I mean,
it's the fans that are making it. So and Disney's gonna let them do what they want with Feige in charge. So of course it's gonna be a good version.
Yeah, no, Mole Man's gonna have a rich internal life.
That's such a sad thought that we're gonna have a better Mole Man if that's the case. Before we have two, Doom does not approve. This is
as long as I get Zac Efron as a Human Torch, I'm good. That's all I care about. You know me, I love my High School Musical.
I did not know that. I'm learning all kinds of new things about Victor.
Victor, come on! You got to get your head in the game. You got to get your head in the game.
But me saying Zac Efron was as far as that joke went. So I couldn't even quote the songs.
Hey man, Zac Efron was in Firefly, so he's got credit as far as I'm concerned.
Young Simon Tan.
That's right.
Yep. Amen.
All right. So another one. This is back to the MCU for this one though. We've got Uatu, the Watcher, by Paul Ryan. And I mean, this is classic standard Uatu, giant head. The Watchers, for those who are not too familiar with him, essentially he is simply he's a voyeur. He just likes to sit back and watch. That's all he does. He doesn't want to intercede. He's like, I can't. I'm just here to watch the major events in the world. And he's not allowed to interfere, although on several times he has. So
okay, let's be clear here. He's not a voyeur. This isn't his hobby. It's his job. He has to be. He has to watch.
Wait, so he's getting paid for
rules.
It? That's even weirder. Like, no.
I mean, room and board on the blue side of the moon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick wants to know about what energy projection from his eyes. At least he has a 1 for fighting ability.
He's shown power, some energy projection from his hands before in the past. Like people that he's had to push away from his home on the blue side of the moon and stuff like that. So it's there.
Once again, I'm digging the portrait on the back even more than the full body shot on the front.
Yeah.
Nope.
But it's like you kind of it's funny when you see this card. And it's like the positioning basically explains his history in comics. Like every time he appeared, it was just that exact stance, that exact expression. So you really don't get a lot from him at all. So it's kind of funny to think. Yeah.
And spoilers, he showed up again recently in comics, didn't he? Like classic Watcher who's been missing for a while.
Dead.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say last time, because the last major event was the Original Sin, in which someone took him out, and I hadn't seen that he's been back. That's actually news for me, but that's interesting. One other thing to note, that Victor and I, as we've had been doing these shows, we enjoy getting together with creators, and we like listen to the fans. And one thing that we've always been connected to the Watcher through was the What If series. And so it's just a lot of different tales of like, what if Spider-Man didn't marry Mary Jane, or what if Wolverine was Lord of the Vampires? And there are a lot of random, just kind of one shots that kind of like, hey, what if this one event changed? What if Wolverine became an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.? And so we're actually talking about doing some shows. Not sure when we're going to do them, what plans we are, but we want to do some shows that are geared towards what ifs.
Well, you've got the Disney Plus series coming up, so that would be great.
Yeah.
And these will kind of be like our little one-shot episodes. They'll be smaller in content. We'll focus more on single issues, so we could talk more about like the ideas and concepts of stories that came before it, that led up to this what if story, and the changes that were made, and like a lot of the earlier what ifs too had some major artists on it that were pretty incredible too. So
yeah. And on that note too, if there's any what ifs that you particularly loved, please let us know in the comments. We will try and keep track of as much as we can. And we've got a few that we have that are like close to our hearts. But then if there's a few that you guys mentioned and we can do them, we can get a hold of them, we'll definitely try and get those into the list of stuff that we plan on doing. So please let us know. But so we also want to mention, as of course, with the MCU, we did get a version of Uatu, and he was there when he's sitting there talking with Stan Lee in one of his cameos, that he's telling them all these different stories, and they're just kind of like, good God, when will he stop?
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, it's a fun little
Guardians 2?
Guardians 2, yeah.
Yep.
Let's see. I'm going to jump over to... who does the Watcher report to? Otherwise, he's just a voyeur. He reports to the Council of Watchers, if I remember correctly.
Yes, you are entirely correct, Ken.
They might have another name, but essentially that's what it is.
Yeah, I remember those guys from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
There you go. Exactly. Oh man, points. Okay, you can't win a variant if you're on the show. So sorry.
Especially if you already won it too.
Watcher's favorite pastime is watching the Reed and Sue get it on, muttering, "I must see the fate of the ultimate universe hangs in the balance." All right, and then for someone whose only existence is to watch, would he just evolve into giant eye? No matter, no need for arms, legs, or mouth. I mean,
technically, I did become a key point in Original Sin. So
yeah,
I was gonna say,
yeah.
Go ahead, Ken.
I was gonna say Patrick was definitely right there. Read Original Sin, and you'll learn all about that. Like,
I mean, to take it away, like all joking aside, like I do enjoy the moments where like the heroes, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, the Avengers notice the Watcher there because they realize the significance of the event that they're at. Like that like they didn't do it a lot. And when they did do it, like you felt the impact of the story you're reading, like, oh, I'm reading something that's gonna go down in like Marvel history. So it was great as a fan to see those moments.
Or at least that the writer hopes goes down in Marvel history.
Exactly. I remember like the one, there was one fail for me, especially as a Wolverine fan, like Alan Davis, when he was doing his little like Wolverine run, they used it at that point, and there was no like, it wasn't significant because like the event wasn't that huge at all. And it kind of died and was pointless. No one even remembers it, but it was there. But
when was this?
This was when Alan Davis was writing and drawing the series, and it was basically, I mean, it kind of led up to. I'm assuming it was they put him in there because it led up to one, Wolverine losing his healing powers and then eventually dying, right. And then of course him getting resurrected. So. And it to me, it was kind of pointless because he was going to come back. All X-Men characters, all superhero characters come back. Bucky came back. So to me, it was kind of pointless for something like that.
Bucky took a sweet time, though.
It's really, he did. But that was the one time that stood out for me where it was a pointless way of using him. Although I love Alan Davis for a lot of other reasons, I thought that was
Totally.
one time it was misusing a character of the Watcher. But there's been other times where when they use him, you're like, this is awesome. He needs to be in the story. It's really awesome.
I mean, it was one of the first times they really killed off Wolverine singly, right? I mean, like the X-Men had died before with the Siege Perilous and stuff like that. But I mean, I can see how they were hoping it was going to be a big deal.
Yeah, and I mean, technically, our standard 616 Wolverine was taken out for a few years.
Yeah,
you have your replacements with Laura and Old Man Logan and stuff like that, but it doesn't. Eventually they're gonna Jean Grey and rise and come back and stuff like that. So the list goes on with how many X-Men's returned with like Cyclops, Colossus, and they eventually come back. You know it as an X-Men fan. And especially with someone like Wolverine, that as much as I love the character, I know he's overused, and I know it's a character that they bank on a lot. So
come on, you knew like when they broke Bruce Wayne's back with Bane, you're like, oh, that's it, no more Bruce Wayne. He's done. He's never coming back. That's it.
They gave us the Prodigal series, and Dick was going to be Nightwing. And wait, who took up the mantle? It's the battle for the cowl, guys. What's going to happen? Oh my goodness.
He'll never have a death or anything like that since then. So
yeah. Jumping around a bit from comments, what if would be a lot of fun? Thank you. We're hoping it will be. Of course, you can feel free to hit us up on Instagram or Twitter or our Facebook page. We will definitely be reading those comments and going over to see like which issues you want us to cover. Like I said, we've got a short list we're working on. We're also going to try to get in Elseworlds as well, just because we love DC. And there's also Star Wars Infinities. There's a wide berth of stories out there of how the world would change with this key point and where that goes. And that's something Victor and I mean, we've always loved. Exiles was just that drawn out, even more so, but with like a mainstay of characters. That's one of our favorite series. So definitely let us know on Instagram @Comic Banter, on Twitter, and also Facebook.
And then follow up with the Rad Newt is Amalgam a what if? It is not, but do not worry. Ken and I are diehard fans of Amalgam. We've said this in the past. There is an Amalgam card series we will cover at one point on the series, and eventually we will be covering the comic book series because it is just a piece of art. It is a piece of magic that happened for all comic book fans everywhere. So don't worry. That's separate from what we're doing with the what ifs, Elseworlds, and the Infinities.
Yeah, and Amalgam still would work really well as well, because for the most part, a lot of them are one shots. They're mostly just here's your one story done in one, and so that is a good spot. Randolph says
Amalgam is a what worlds?
Yeah,
yeah.
There you go. Man, now we have to figure out what is the Amalgam universe equivalent of Elseworlds or What If, and I think What Worlds is a pretty strong contender. Randolph says, I'll check my archives for good what ifs. Please do let us know. Let's see. We've got unfortunately we did spoil it for Eric that Bucky came back. I apologize. That's on me. I'm
the one that said it. It's on me. It's on me.
John Paul Valley Ranch is the real Batman. That is. Yeah.
Right. I actually want to go back to the comment about the 2001 Space Baby got a job. I think we brought it up here before, but 2001 was actually a Marvel series that was drawn by Jack Kirby. Years after the movie.
And gave us Machine Man.
Machine Man, that's right.
Yes. It was a damn good series too. I loved it. It had nothing to do with the movie at all, ultimately.
No, I think originally it was an adaptation of the movie, wasn't it? That just kind of kept going?
It did, but it's like it kind of like let go of it at one point. Like it kind of didn't matter. It became its own thing, which I mean, I'm not gonna complain because it's actually really good. And you look back, there was actually I remember there were other movies that Marvel tried to do that with. Like, I don't know if you guys remember the Meteor Man with Robert Townsend.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
There
was a comic book series that came out. And if you read the series, it actually included like specific characters or like henchmen that were in the regular Marvel universe. So they kind of tried to like shoehorn him in. Ultimately, it wasn't all that great, and they never used it. But I mean, there's numerous times where Marvel tried to basically copy what they succeeded with the 2001 comic book series.
Kind of like they did with Mad Dog, where the show with oh god, I can't remember his name now. This is ridiculous. The character's name is like Mad Dog, or
You're talking about on Arrow?
no, it's
that's different character.
Yeah, there's a comic with I'm not gonna remember it, and it's just gonna drive me crazy. But it's a character from a TV show from Knots Landing. I don't even remember the character. This is gone. I'm sorry, everyone. Randolph in the comments wants to say that Blank Man is greater than Meteor Man. That's a bold statement. That's not my torch to bear. I'm not going to take up arms against it or for it.
Randy. One had powers, and the other one just created.
That battle would go pretty quickly. But then Batman and Superman. I mean, maybe it's that the movie version of that.
That's the eternal fight.
His gadgets were barely better than like Inspector Gadget. Like actually, not even better than Inspector Gadget.
Weren't they like kitchen appliances, basically?
Or like it was ridiculous. And he had no fighting ability, so I don't know. Sorry. He got the laugh out. Yeah, okay. I knew Randy. And I'm trying to look at your Mad Dog thing, Ken, and I'm not coming up with anything.
I'm my brain is like jabbing at me that like you need to remember this. And Bob Newhart. Bob Newhart there was a Bob Newhart show that had him as a comic book writer, and the comic was Mad Dog, and it was a flip book that like the front, like one side was the classic Mad Dog comics, and then the other side was the 90s extreme version of it. And I'm like, oh man, let's see.
Was it Newhart the artist, or was he both?
I'm trying to remember because it's such a random thing to remember.
I'm not sure it was Mad Dog though. It might have been something similar in name, but I don't know if it was exactly Mad Dog because that was a different character, and he was actually.
Yeah, so I was able to pull it up. So the series is the TV show is called Bob, just Bob, and it is Mad Dog. Yeah, superhero Mad Dog. Yeah. Yeah, sorry for the random facts and brain tangent, everyone, but this is what you get when you get Ken Rolow, so sorry. But yeah, the concept of the show was that they were making a comic strip, and like it was an odd time to have a show about, oh, these are people writing comics, and this is like I don't it's just random. Like that they put this on the air. Not that it's a bad thing, it was one of those weird things and then you get Bob Newhart. Like who thought Bob Newhart was like, yeah, that's the face of comics we want for the 90s. Here we are, folks. So yeah, it was like a maybe a 4-issue miniseries, and each book was a flip book. So you had like the classic Golden Age era Mad Dog, and then the 90s edgelordy one. So yeah, sorry for my random tangent. All right,
no memory at all, but that's that's fascinating. The mainstream crossover.
Yeah, it's one thing that just popped in my brain, and it's one bit of knowledge that's stuck in there forever that I'll never remember, other things, but here we are.
Just to clarify for somebody that that in the chat is going back to the 2001 thing that like I didn't know about 2001. Just to clarify, Marvel did not create 2001 A Space Odyssey.
It was a comic book adaptation. So, yeah. But yeah, no one look up what Ken was talking about. I think it was pointless.
It's a waste of time. I'm sorry I brought everyone with me. There's far better things to watch and learn about. But when the internet, you fall down holes, folks. We all know it happens. I'm sorry for that time. Moving on from the Watcher and his giant head to the Living Tribunal, who is like another one of these cosmic level beings. So it's like, what's he? He's all 7s except for fighting ability. I mean, I guess if you're that fast, you don't really need to fight. If you're that smart, you don't need to fight. So you really don't need to do much, and you're right there. Yeah. So I don't have much to say about the Living Tribunal because it's like he has he has his role, but just like a lot of the cosmic beings, or just like some of the cosmic beings, it's just like I'm a silent watcher. I'm, or I stand in judgment. Like that's.
Yeah. Wasn't he also one of the key parts in the Marvel versus DC crossover?
He might have been.
I remember Access had it, like there's one like DC Celestial and Marvel Celestial type of character, cosmic beings, and I want to say it was Living Tribunal was that one.
I don't know. I haven't reviewed it in a while. I feel like this is the first time I've seen the Living Tribunal's body. I thought he was just 3 heads, or a head with 3 faces. Like, 'cause that's all I remember seeing in all the appearances that I've seen of him. But nice Paul Ryan art for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He was always a gigantic character. Like they always, like the scale on him was always big. So that, it makes sense that like you think he's just a head, and of course he's all his head. There's no neck, so he's floating from the body. So it's easy to think that like, oh yeah, like in most appearances he's just a head, because that's how like a lot of people would draw him.
Yep. By the way, I'm sorry guys, but I'm going to do it again. Kill Mooney mentions that the Mad Dog Silver Age style story by Ty Templeton on one side, and Modern Age Styles Tale on the other side, with work by Evan Dorkin and Gordon Purcell.
Wow, solid creators for sure.
Yeah, really good. Glad that you brought that along, Ken.
I'm sorry, everyone. These are the things that are stuck in my brain.
I can't wait until we get to that card in this series. That's gonna be
it's
totally gonna.
Well, he's in the holofoils, so he's a little while away.
I'm going to bring this show back to form by noting that because he's got 3 giant heads, he's way smarter than the Punisher.
There you go. Thank you. Back on point. Again, you can't win another variant. It's not gonna. They don't stack up. All these amazing comments. You know what? If anyone, Victor, I know it's my choice, but I think I want to give Kill Mooney that variant now, because the fact that he brought in the knowledge.
We each get one. If that's your choice, I can't veto that. That's not
okay. Now we got to be paying attention.
Yeah, Kill Mooney, I appreciate that. I will try to reach out to you via Twitch. Also, if you want to reach out to me via Instagram, that's probably gonna be the best way. And we will do what we can to get you that variant. Thank you for the Mad Dog comment. Yeah, and I'm drunk from Cream Anderson.
You're welcome.
Cheers, buddy.
Yeah. So yeah, the Living Tribunal, definitely like a cosmic level being. You guys are talking about. I do like the 3 heads. It's always very kind of. It's a staple of certain design. Like I think of Triclops or Many Faces, of these designs of like, oh no, or the Judge in Transformers, of like, oh, they turn, they twist, and you're seeing different faces. And
Did Master Mold have 3 faces as well?
No, was it the Tri-Sentinel? What was it?
Tri-Sentinel. Yeah, Tri-Sentinel had 3 heads. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Is anybody else? His hero click was badass. Oh man, I'd have to look back at the Living Tribunal. It's not one that I remember too much. That's a hole for me. Can he be interacted with? I'm not sure who can be. I mean, he does like stand in judgment and speak, if I remember correctly, but I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, he was a colossal for the hero click. Okay, gotcha.
Oh, cool. And they like the part for his neck's kind of a clear piece, so they actually did try to attempt to make it look like he had no neck. So,
nice. All right. I don't know if anyone else has anything to say about Tribunal, but I think we're moving on to Ego. And like this is what I mean when we talk about how we first got into cards and first got into comics. This was my first exposure to Ego, and so I'm like, so he's just like a face on a planet, and I would think like, well, what if he meets Galactus? Galactus is going to eat him, and he's going to be like, no, stop that, I'm right here. And like the closest I ever got to a similar type character where it's a living planet was Mogo, and I'm always like, okay, so I think that they face off in like one of the Marvel versus X-Men. I'm sorry, yeah. Marvel versus DC crossovers panels, like one of those splash pages.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I remember that. Looked like 2 planets almost colliding.
Yeah.
Who came first? Because they were both created in the 80s, right? So Alan Moore created the Green Lantern one, right? And this guy was in 86.
The 66.
Oh, 66. Sorry, I can see why you guys aren't commenting on the cards when they're in the stream because it's so for us. It's so small here. It's hard to read.
It's definitely It's like if you
so
have.
I think ego first for sure.
Yeah. It's so wait, jumping back, Kareem Anderson wants to know about, I believe he wants to know about Living Tribunal. With a one fighting ability, can he be attacked or killed? I mean, he can be attacked, but at that, when you consider his strength, energy projection, mental power, and speed, you're probably gonna not really do much of anything. So does it matter?
It's kind of like Bruce Lee though attacking like a building-sized piece of solid bronze. It's like it really doesn't matter that the bronze has a one fighting ability. Like, you know, it's pretty solid.
Yeah. Jumping back to someone said, okay, yeah, I guess that Kareem Anderson likes the cool artwork. It's definitely cool. It's very moody, very kind of, it's different because like Paul Ryan's lines are so clean on some of the other pieces, whereas this is very, it's very,
a lot of texture. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of texture. It's topographical. I mean, it's supposed to be a living planet. So it's like, it's interesting. For those who, I mean, do you guys have any thoughts from the comics that you remember?
I have very little memory. Like I said, I wasn't big into the cosmic stuff at the time. So yeah, not really.
And this is one the only card in probably this whole series where I say like the headshot is not as good in the main card where it is in the actual headshot. It's like he's like, I have to draw this exact image again. I'm just gonna have that. And of course, whoever who was coloring these ones, Ken? Who'd you say was
Paul
coloring
Mounts? These should all be Paul Mounts.
I feel like Paul Mounts felt the same way. He's like, I have to color the same thing all over again. So we could just came up and splashed it real quick.
Yeah, there's definitely some better technique. I mean, even also too, maybe the inking, because like you see the black and stuff around the eyes on the front of the card, whereas on the backside, it just seems a lot quicker, and you don't have the kind of the detail that was put into the front.
I mean, the lighting's more dramatic. It's just, he just changed the lighting up, which is what, artists tend to do when they're bored. I remember reading about Jim Lee when he was on The Punisher, thinking it's like, I can only triple light the Punisher, Frank Castle's face so many different ways, trying to keep it interesting for himself.
Fair enough. One of the other times that I really enjoyed Ego, though, which I mean, it's a weird thing to say because he doesn't have a lot of screen time, but there was a time period where he had an interaction with Rick Rider Nova after he had gathered the world mind, and he was now traveling the universe after the Nova Corps had been destroyed, and he was trying to find a new place to set up base for the Nova Corps and restart that. And there was a time where Ego almost became a Nova. I think he may have even become a Nova to a degree, and part of the world mind joined with him, and they're like, okay, you'll be the base now. Very Mogo Green Lanterns ish.
Yeah, really.
But then I think of course Mogo went mad with power, and there's also I think maybe an infection. It's been a while since I've read it, but it was a good read at the time. I think I'm pretty sure that's Abbott and Lanning era. Check it out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's funny. I have no memory of where I encountered Mogo, but I do remember that when the new Guardians 2 came out, it was I was aware of the character, but I don't remember where from.
Yeah,
same. I'm pretty much the same. I know I've read dozens of stories with them in it, and I just can't pinpoint anything for some reason.
Let's see. Wait, no. Ego could bite Galactus back if that were a thing. To which Patrick said, "That's definitely an adult film somewhere." Yes, that is.
Okay, and I was going to give you the variant just for the. Oh wait, no.
And then, of course, we have the MCU version of Ego, which I mean, it's definitely it was done in the comics. He did have a human form in one story, to my knowledge, but it was definitely I mean, it's Kurt Russell. He's awesome. So I mean, you're not going to get a complaint from me. That's phenomenal. I do like them landing on a planet and the clouds make up that face. They do a good job of,
and it's purple too. That I hadn't even realized that at the time.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, MCU had a lot of good direction from a lot of things, and I mean, it was fairly consistent throughout the entire run of that stuff. And this is just another nod of okay, how do we update a character and make it not make it laughable or goofy? And I mean, it can be goofy, but at times, but it never feels unbelievable, which is a weird thing to say for Marvel Comics.
I will say that I was a little put off by them because they had Bendis had taken on the Guardians and kind of tried to make them even more like the versions that were in the comics after the initial movie came out, and then they did a big story with his father, and then the MCU's like, nope.
Oh yeah, the Spartex stuff.
It's gonna be. I mean, granted, okay, Jason, that was maybe not the greatest, but it was just sort of like, no, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna have his dad be a planet.
Yeah. I mean, anything else ego worthy?
No.
All right. Moving on to Eternity. And this is another character who's like in the comics. It's always really striking because it's just this blank form standing in a negative void of just space. And I think I've seen a few cosplays of this, and it's kind of awesome. Like the way that people just do, like, they're just like they're a black suit, space bits, and maybe a little lighting from the
like the half base. Yeah.
Like the inset card for the back. Like it's just like that little bit. Like that's all you got. I'm like, it's so striking. Like that's one thing. There's an Ion costume from Green Lantern that is right there, and I love that.
Yes.
I mean,
that was so well done.
I wish there were more DC Universe cards that were better to be able to do more characters that I love over there. Because Kyle Reiner's one that I think a lot of his designs are great, and this is like this reminds me of that, and that I love that.
This design is so Ditko though too. I was like, because when I think cosmic in the Marvel universe, you tend to think Kirby, right? But like, this is so pure Ditko.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's appeared in a variety of stories. I mean, just kind of similar to Living Tribunal or The Watcher. He just he shows up whenever the need for a character of this level power is needed.
Okay, now I have to say that I think, and I could be misremembering because it's been a long time, but I believe my first exposure to this character was something that was hardly universe shaking. But this is back when it may have been the first time that Bruce Banner like permanently like was in control of the Hulk's body. This is pre Peter David, and he had become a big celebrity. Like New York threw him a parade, and like all of these luminaries of the Marvel universe sort of showed up to pay their respects to Bruce Banner, no longer the feared monster. And I swear Eternity was there somewhere.
Just like on the parade route, like, no, I'm just going to get a dog and watch the show. Like, what's the
big deal? It was weird. It was actually another one of those like really cool things I loved about a lot of the early comics I read in the 80s where, when you read an issue of Spider-Man, they were like, oh yeah, well, this guy was previously, he was, he fought Iron Man and, 2 issues ago here. And there was, there were like these flashbacks of like what the villains had done and like what other heroes that they had encountered recently. And so here in this particular story, I'm digressing a little bit here with the Hulk. That's my first introduction to Captain Britain was there, and they had Shamrock, who I didn't know was a character, and
Contest of Champions. Am I correct, or am I mixing?
No, this was maybe it was post contest.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just mean that her first appearance is Shamrock's first appearance is Contest of Champions.
Oh, could be.
I'm sorry.
First time I remember Shamrock was. I think you may be right, Ken.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so those sort of moments, right?
Yeah. I want to say that Kareem is loving this comic. He wants to know what it is. If you can shout him out let him know the issue number, he would appreciate it, I bet.
He said love this comic.
Yes, he loves this comic.
No,
Patrick's loved. Oh, loved. There you go. I don't remember it, so there you go. Patrick's saying, well, technically Eternity is always everywhere. That's
not wrong.
True. Yeah.
My front runner for best comic, by the way.
Patrick?
Sorry, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm reading his next comment. Patrick's next comment. Stupid.
And he just lost my vote.
Yeah. See, that's. Yeah,
he did apologize though. He did apologize. He said, "I apologize for that joke." So, but still, you made me laugh. So there's points there. So I respect that.
There you go.
For the Ken Shamrock reference.
Good name, Ken Shamrock. Next up, we have The Celestials by Ron Friends. And this one is just like power ratings, not applicable. They're
Yes, I
15.
remember that. Yeah.
Wait. Were there power ratings for Eternity and there's no power ratings for the Celestials?
They created everything.
Yeah, Eternity, just like the Living Tribunal, is 777, but he can't fight, but he still has the speed. So it's like, yes, there's power ratings for the others. But I think it's because the Celestials are a group as opposed to just a singular being. And I think that's the thought process behind it. We'd have to find the intern. Oh, and also the Celestials do not speak when lesser beings are present, so they have no quote. So there's just nothing to be said.
I'm just saying, if Eternity is everything everywhere, then isn't he also the Celestials?
It's the chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do love the Jack Kirby designs, like all the way through all of them. Like they're all just like Ron Friends is like, I know how Jack drew. I got this.
And hopefully you have this, Ken. I'm assuming you do. I love that when the MCU decided to use they decided to use these designs. It was just perfectly beautiful. Like I love that they decided to keep the Kirby designs. You can't do these Marvel Celestials any other way, in my opinion. And I love that they keep that.
They just wouldn't look. You wouldn't know who they were.
Right.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, it's also worth noting. So this, I believe, this is from the first Guardians movie when they're showing what the Infinity Stone for, which I think this was power for this one. They're showing what the power is, but also nowhere the location that they start in the movie is also the head of a Celestial that's just decapitated, floating through space.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they did some good usage of these characters.
I mean, they danced with Kirby designs as far back as the original Thor movie as well.
Yeah. Patrick is saying, isn't the Living Tribunal above the Celestials in the cosmic hierarchy? I mean, I think I don't know, because also I think at times Living Tribunal almost has a bit of a theological point to him. Like he's almost, am I wrong, or is it strictly like cosmic level stuff, or is it also almost theological at times?
I mean, everything everywhere is everything, right? It's both.
Yeah, I mean more like he's, it's a deity thing, like how the Spectre is the hand of God in DC universe.
Right.
Like I thought the Living Tribunal had some kind of ties to that as well, but someone else would have to like verify or let me know. Kareem is curious, is that Galactus' sister in the group? It very well could be. I see the design points, but technically speaking, they're shorter than Galactus because they can stand on the Earth and just be like, although Galactus can shift size too. I don't know. We're all across the board here, folks. And Patrick says, I think you're right, Ken. LT is connected to the one above all. There we go. Yeah, that's definitely one of those things where it's like, I have this memory stuck in my head from somewhere and I wasn't quite sure. Galantia, there is actually a character named Galactica who is I want to say Galactus's daughter, and she was created for like the Marvel editor's intern choice thing. It was like kind of a joke, but then they continued it on through other stories that she's actually really his daughter, and I don't know, it's a bit out there. So yeah. Next up, for those fans of Thanos in here, we've got Death by Paul Ryan. And like, this is, I mean, that I definitely, one thing I appreciate is they've stuck with this depiction of Death the entire time. Like they do sometimes give her a face. But a lot of times you just have that skeletal almost Grim Reaper to a degree, but without the scythe. But it's, yeah, I mean, this is who Thanos seeks. This is the embodiment of the embodiment of death in the Marvel universe.
What year was Infinity Gauntlet?
Oh, good heavens, that is a good question. And as you ask me that, I will use Google to tell me what year.
There you go.
I'm sure like Patrick's going to say by the time I pull it up that he's going to be like, oh, it was this year. But I'm just still going to type it in and see what comes up. 91. There we go. See, I knew Patrick was on it. 1991.
Okay, so that was the year that this. No, what year? This is after that, right? What year is the series? 90.
The series is 92.
Okay, so about a year after that. I was gonna say, like, I don't know how consistent the portrayal is with the hooded purple robe, but I definitely remember that from Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, I guess I say it's been consistent, but that's all that I've been exposed to is this version of Death. And and I guess that's kind of short sighted to think that like that's all that there's been. I mean, she appeared in 1974 in Captain Marvel. I'm guessing probably with the passing of Captain Marvel.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
no, I think that was a little bit later. Captain Marvel died a little later than 74? I'm pretty sure.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, but also you'd have that depiction of her in the purple robe at that passing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anybody else remember her? Any other depictions? I do know she's had some just random Caucasian woman under there, but there's no kind of definition to hair or eyes. That just kind of the cheeks and a hand is all you get. I mean, it's interesting that with Thanos, they didn't do anything with her in the movies, but they just kind of stuck to the I want to balance the world aspect.
Yeah, I think that they just felt that that idea was not relatable, like to be in love with the manifestation of death. I think they just felt that the audience was going to have a hard time buying that, and so they made him. He's almost more of a Ra's al Ghul, right? Like a cosmic Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting choice.
Kareem says, I don't know why I expected to see a different name under real name. Would have been cool. It is just real name Death. Patrick believes that it should be corrected. Real name is Karen.
Not wrong.
Yeah.
I think you're giving Karen's way too much credit.
Yeah.
yeah, there was a guy obsessed with her, so yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's weird because it's like there's not much more to say. Like I remember someone's take was that Thanos might have been in love with Hela as kind of a homage to his fascination with death, but we never got that, which is fine because it was just kind of an interesting kind of like, oh, that's an interesting take, but it never came to fruition.
Was there never a thing with Hela and Thanos? No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant in the MCU. That means
in the MCU. Oh, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's certainly because we had Hela right around that time.
Well, I mean, the Hela in the MCU though, like, wasn't quite have that connection with like death and hell and all that, quite like she does in the comics either.
Yeah.
She was much more the God Killer than she was Hela from the comics.
Yeah. Patrick also mentioned too, Death and Deadpool interactions are always fun. Yeah, there is actually a lot of, especially in his like the joke, what started as the Joe Casey series for Deadpool with Ed McGuinness. They had a really good run there, and like they played with those ideas and those expectations a lot. And like she had a thing for him to the point that Thanos hated Deadpool because of it. So he's like, "How dare you?" That's my woman.
That's great. That's great. Now, was this scary cosmic Thanos or the Thanos in the helicopter?
This is scary cosmic Thanos.
Okay. They still play with the helicopter to make jokes, so like it was Deadpool.
They made a matchbox of it, so like I'm upset that I don't have it. So I thought that was cool. Moving from a character who's iconic that everyone's kind of aware of in one degree or another to Stranger, just Stranger with I don't even know where to begin with him. He's an uncanny X-Men character. Also,
that's where he first appeared. I don't think.
Yeah, he first appeared there, then Silver Surfer, and I'm like, okay, like way smarter than the Punisher, that's for sure. But
again, he's somebody I totally recognize, but I can't place him at all.
Same. Yeah, he doesn't stand out. I mean, ultimately, wasn't he like one of the siblings with like the Collector and the Game Master or something like that?
Probably it.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Well, the name says it all. Yeah, he's just kind of Stranger.
Yeah, you're entirely right.
Stranger Danger.
It's probably in a what the.
Yeah. Oh man, what does? We should do those too, but they don't think they read as well as far as like sharing them.
Honestly, we'll save it for April Fools, and we'll do one episode on it. It doesn't deserve anything outside of that. Well, maybe Forbush Man, because he deserves like a whole series. But yeah, nothing outside of that.
There you go. Cream is now 3 shots in, so we're just going to step forward because I don't think anyone has anything to say about the Stranger. Like audience, we're willing to listen. Let us know your thoughts on the Stranger. But I think we might
somebody passionate out there.
Yeah, somebody's gonna be like, you don't know that the Stranger was actually
has the same style mustache and everything.
Looks like a comment from Adam Slayer. So if Stranger asked me to get into his van, I mean, is there candy involved? There's no mention of candy. Why bother? Like,
Well, I mean, based upon his bio, like it could go really well or really poorly because apparently he's just completely unpredictable.
there you go. See, like it's a very dignified mustache, though. That part is clear.
Yes, and goatee. He has points on the goatee too.
Yeah. Next up, we've got the Inbetweener, who I remember. I remember from a few different events, but then also I think of him from the Hero Click because his Hero Click was another one of like a large size figure. So yeah, the Inbetweener. I've got nothing to say on him. This is bad. Like, I mean, we're kind of like I vaguely remember them. Here they are. Anybody else?
You guys were supposed to save me on this because I was like, I know I'm going to have nothing on most of these characters, but I'm sure Ken and Victor are going to have it handled.
See, on some of them, like this one's the first appearance. His first appearance is Warlock number 11. So I'm going to wait for Patrick to be able to give us his dissertation because Patrick is the one who's like, Warlock? Well, let me tell you. What he did was, this is the gospel as told by Warlock in the first chapter of Warlock. I don't know.
I do, again, love the portrait on the back. It's cropped a little weird. It's very tangenty there on the chin. But the rendering itself is really fun. I like it.
Yeah, I mean it's Ron Lim, so you're always gonna be solid. I like all of his cosmic stuff. It's right there. Patrick saying can't lie. Even I can't get in the Inbetweener. I think that's
wow. That says it all right there.
Yeah, I think it's man.
I wonder if there's an in-joke in there somewhere because I don't know how well you guys know animation, but that was a job in animation was that the sort of like the newer animators were the guys that would fill in the frames in between the big motion,
between
the
key
poses.
frames.
Yeah.
And it entirely could have because I know like I can't pinpoint. There's a few like limited series where they used him, but they use him in a comedic manner. So like a lot of those miniseries are used in like throwaways. It's not considered like something that will be like referenced later on in other like main Marvel comics or anything like that. But I remember the Inbetweener being in the I just realized that you wrote The Stranger by Ron Lim. Yeah, it was used more comedically. Like they didn't. I think it might be in reference to what you're talking about, Marcus. Like it's, yeah. So ultimately, he was a joke, apparently.
Cream says the pose says, "Why was I created? Why am I even alive?"
So it's like that joke and like that Frank Gorshin character from the original Star Trek.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just not on all cylinders tonight. And it's like I was thinking too, like there's so many characters in the past where I'm like, oh, not only is this character great, I've got his action figure. And I pull it up and I'm like, there's no Inbetweener action figure. There's no set that's like, no, wait. We need the guy in the tunic, I guess, the tunic robe and boots. No pants per se, but just boots and robe.
It's and a bold choice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's why we've got the top-down shot rather than the other way around.
There you go. Again, you can't win a second one. Moving on.
Sorry.
Next up is Epoch I put Greg Capullo simply because it's a Quasar character, and Greg Capullo drew the Quasar card. He also did the Maelstrom card. There's a Quasar character, so I'm just guessing this could be Greg Capullo. It is not a educated guess. It is just a guess.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I didn't know his work from back then, but based on what you guys have shown in the other cards, like especially looking at the profile card on the back, the close up, it feels like it could be him.
Yeah, and like I'll shoot back over to kind of like some earlier Quasar. Like we had Quasar here, Greg Capullo for sure,
or at least the same inker. If it's if it wasn't if he's not inking his own stuff, then it feels like it's the same guy.
And then I will jump to where'd he go? Oh, come on now. Where's Maelstrom? Good heavens. We're not going to have Maelstrom? What are we even doing here, guys?
That's what I was going to say, man. He beat me to it.
What kind of chicken shit operation am I running? So you get Maelstrom, and I mean, very lanky. Like it's, but he got his signature in there. I don't know if it just got cropped out or what, but I don't know. They hit us with Epoch, and they're like, you go with it. You got it.
I mean, it's no Mad Dog, but it's something. They got a card.
Yeah, and let's see. Epoch's quote sounds like the start of a Linkin Park song.
Hey.
It's like, yeah, wait, hold on. We've got Patrick saying, was going to say, heard it in an adult film. Thank you for bringing the chat up. Thank you, gentlemen. It looks like a poorly designed early level D&D character. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. It's just kind of like, it's a half-formed idea. Oddly, this is actually if you read the card, he is like the inheritor of omniscience from the keeper of the cosmic awareness. It's a whole story. I didn't read Quasar. I remember seeing the issues, but I didn't pick them up. Patrick said probably the most clear thing is no one wants to take credit for Epoch. Fair enough. Next up, so we are done with our cosmic beings, and we're stepping into the origin series. So we've got the origin for the Hulk, and one that I think that's never quite been done justice in the Marvel MCU, because in the story that it starts with is very much one of heroism and sacrifice. Like Bruce Banner is they're doing the test, and he sees Rick Jones out on the field, and he's gonna die, and he's like, we got to get this kid out of the blast zone. If he doesn't move, he's going to die. Goes out there, throws him in the hole, but doesn't have enough time to jump in after him and gets blasted with gamma radiation.
It was less dramatic, but they did play with that in the Ang Lee version. Like they did have him shove the guy out of the way.
Well, it's weird, yeah, because he's like he stands in front of the blast, and because the character who's I think unnamed, maybe they say Rick, but he's like almost unnamed in the Ang Lee version, and he just kind of stands in front of a blast, and you see him go. But we don't get the full weight of it. And then
in atomic bomb going off. Yeah, it's a little less dramatic.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is a laser that does stuff. And they're like, oh, okay. And then the one in the Edward Norton one, they just kind of vaguely alluded to something happening.
And it's more like they sort of combined the Ang Lee with the Bill Bixby sort of version of it was the idea. I think what's always been a hard sell for Hollywood is like, hey, here's your hero. He's a guy who created atomic bombs. You know, it's just like it's a hard sell for you to empathize and root for somebody that could create something so terrible, I think.
Yep. Let's see. Oh, Kill Mooney mentioned looks like a Matrix Sentinel for Epoch.
Yeah.
That's fair. Spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jumping forward, Kareem is happy that we're onto the Hulk. It looks like the Hulk just farted a nuclear blast. You know, I mean, he still has radiation in him. You never know.
You know, I gotta say it, but I think that's a Kevin Maguire headshot there on the bag.
That is so. Yeah. That does look like a Kevin Maguire, and we on one of the episodes that you weren't on, it was a team up, and that's the inset from the team up card. And I was like, we got Kevin Maguire here, and no Critter Paladin. The world is upside down, left is right, up is down, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. The Ang Lee Hulk has some really cool moments interspersed with just nothingness. Yeah, that Ang Lee Hulk where he fights Gamma Poodles, like just
okay. No. I've heard something, and I don't remember where I heard the story, but my understanding is basically that they basically just had to cut way back on the budget because apparently the original storyboarded version of the fight with the giant poodles was like 3/4 of the budget of the entire film.
Oh God!
And so they just basically had to pare that back, and everything else.
Not the father version of Absorbing Man / Zizax. Like there was like, let's go this way. That is. I mean, I know it was early CG, and so you have to take everything with a grain of salt. But man, there are some choices, and there's definitely some moments there where Ang Lee was trying to put forth an idea of like, I'm going to shoot it like a comic, but it just doesn't quite come across in the end. And
yeah, it's weird because when you're watching, I mean, although they're related, film and comics are just different languages, and with comics, you are reading the panels in order. Whereas if you have something that's moving, you're kind of looking at all of them the same time in film. So it is like an odd sort of a choice. Yeah, I mean, like I thought the CG. I've always loved the CG overall in that film, and like when I watch it, it's typically just the scene of the Hulk running around in the desert, like fighting the army. Like I love that scene so much. But there's a
classic Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. There's a YouTube channel called the Corridor Crew that looks at old effects, and they have an episode where they looked at all three, like all the different versions of the cinema versions of the Hulk. And I think the Hulk in the Ang Lee version, like he was tops all the way around, and the only thing is that the color grading is what makes it look odd, is because the brightness of the green on the Hulk is brighter than the greens of everything that's around him.
Yeah, they talk about that a bit in, I think it's the Collider, no, not Collider, the Corridor guys.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, that's
they talk about how like the when they did the Sonic movie, they're like, oh, he's too saturated here. They do a really good job of breaking that stuff down.
We have similar YouTube tastes.
So we do. Kree mentions that the Hulk dogfight was better in Ragnarok. That is true, and I never even made that connection that he fought dogs in Ragnarok and he fought dogs there. I'm like,
I didn't either. Wow.
Yeah.
Super, yeah.
That's a good pull. Hulk's proportions seemed to be off, however. Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is like by design of that first Ang Lee Hulk, I'm not a fan of like the kind of I think of it as like the Frankenstein version of Hulk, where he's just got the little bit of hair on top. I like the Mike Deodato one, where it's like the shaggy hair, which you got in the not the Incredible Hulk. Oh yeah, the Incredible Hulk. The Incredible Hulk, and that was more of like a Mike Deodato piece.
True. It really was. I never thought about it like that, but yeah. I've always liked the shorter hair on the Hulk. I mean, I kind of grew up with the shaggy haired version of the Hulk, the kind of classic Hulk, for a long time. Yeah, I kind of liked when they went back to like a shorter version of the Hulk. Like I think that was probably during the Peter David run.
Yeah, he did have that kind of like the clean sides and just the hair on the top, which is like it's like Frankenstein, or then the Jolly Green Giant version of like just like the leafy, the long shaggy hair. But yeah, this is the origin of the Hulk, and it's awesome. It's one thing we've, like I said, we've seen in the Marvel universe. They've done their own adaptation. I do like the original quite a bit because it has a little more heroicness to it. It's him,
the
right? Sacrifices there.
It feels more epic.
Yeah. So also a weird thing of like one of his powers that you didn't learn about until later on is that he can always find his way back to that spot in New Mexico where that bomb happened.
That's right.
And like that, he's always
some of his other strange powers before the stream, but yeah, that's another one.
Okay, was that before? I thought no, that was in the very beginning because Kree was okay. Yeah, he was happy about that. As a reflection, the David Bana, they seem to be two different embodiments. Yeah, they very much are. Next one is Spider-Man, and like we've seen this one a bajillion times. One thing that's not shown in this picture is that Sydney Moon is actually behind him and will be bit by the same radioactive spider in just moments after this. So,
but we wouldn't find out for decades and decades later that was the case.
Dang it, Ezekiel, man. I mean, this is classic Spider-Man. They've done it, and they've done it at length. So it's like I appreciate it. It's interesting to see the way they've kind of changed it to like, oh, it's. I think of course you have the first one where it's I think actually both of them are genetically modified because science has changed from radiation to genetics, and so now our stance on certain things is like, oh, how do we move forward and change these origins for a new audience? So. It's interesting.
Yeah, that always bothered me though, right? I mean, like, because radiation has got that whole mutation thing built into it. It's like, so it's a genetically modified spider, so it genetically modifies him. It's like, so if all the fruit that we're eating is genetically modified, are we all turning to it? Do I have apple powers?
Yeah, you're cider man. You have the powers of apple cider. It's okay, folks. I can't win a cover either. Can't win a cover either.
Angling for the variant cover.
Can't win no prize for cheesiness.
I get the Marvel no prize. Yeah.
And I do want to note that although we've got Alex Saviuk, I believe, on the front, and then of course we've got I believe that's Kirby that did the original cover to Amazing Fantasy. And is that Eric Larson doing the portrait on the back?
Yeah, they reused the picture from the first card, right, Ken?
Yeah, they use it from the very first card. Actually, we can jump to that one pretty easily because it's just boom, right at the top. You got the Eric Larson inset. So yeah, they reused they reused a lot of the card art when they could, and it's like it's definitely reasonable because it's like they've only got so much time. So, but yeah, I also love that Eric Larson. Like that thing is phenomenal. I would love to have that original piece of art. Eric, if you're out there, if you're watching, Eric Larson, among other things, please, I'd like that piece of art. But thank you for this art as well.
Or just give him a sketch of the exact piece of art.
Either one, that because it's probably gone now. Yeah,
I remember not loving Larson's stuff at the time. Just comparing him, I think, so much to McFarlane when he originally sort of took over. That was amazing, right? But at this point, I think that he'd really sort of found his own kind of way of doing Spider-Man. That was definitely influenced still by McFarlane, but just really fun line work.
Yeah. Jumping back, and we do have comments. We're gonna get back to you guys. That Spider needs its own comic. That's fair because I mean, as Patrick said, Original Sin did some shit. It did. Like they were like, we're killing this person, we're taking this. There's also a story there too where Tony Stark was
partly responsible for the Incredible Hulk. Yeah.
Yeah, like he messed with the bomb or something. So
I missed that.
Yeah. It was one of the
forgot it.
Yeah, it's one of the subs, the miniseries.
The miniseries that came out of Original Sin. It was just the whole Hulk versus Iron Man thing. So there was a lot of stuff that came out of it.
Cream says technically genetically modified foods last longer, just like the human lifespan now. Fair enough. So we are actually being imparted with that same preservatives and so forth.
We have the power to not go bad longer.
Tony Stark is responsible for all bad things in 616. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure he killed Richard and May Parker. So,
but did he kill Uncle Ben?
No. Oddly enough, that was actually
he killed the wrong Uncle Ben. It was the Uncle Ben Rice guy that he killed.
Yep. And so. I mean, there's not much to cover more on Spider-Man. We've all seen this origin so many times, and
I'm just surprised. I didn't know it was a spider that gave him the powers.
Yeah, I thought it was actually that he bit a radioactive spider,
like Spider-Ham.
Like Spider-Ham, right?
Exactly. I found out about Spider-Man was through Spider-Ham, so I really thought that was the way it happened.
Well, back in the 80s, there was actually the way that they described it, sort of in the blurb in the beginning of the comic. Page 1 at the top, was that there was something that was strange or unique about Peter's blood that allowed him to get the powers, essentially. Because a normal person would have just died of radiation poisoning, but there was something unique about Peter already that allowed him to sort of synthesize that and turn it into powers instead of death. And I was like, so. I would tell people for years that I think Peter was originally that he is a mutant, and his mutant power is to not die of radiation poisoning and get spider powers, essentially.
And they did little nods to that too, like in the House of M stuff. Like for a while, he portrayed himself as a mutant, and it was revealed in the story that no, it was from that. Also, I think that JMS messed with that a little bit too, with the idea of the spider totem. And that he was chosen for this role. It's not just that he got these powers, and I think they touched on it at that point too.
I mean, it's almost like like saying that he's not a mutant is almost like saying that Wolverine's not a mutant because not like originally not all of his powers came from his mutantness. He had the originally the skeleton and the claws were something that was added by people. So anyway, yeah.
All right. Let's see. Jumping over, we've got the origin of the Silver Surfer, which I mean, we've got. I'm saying the inset art's by Ron Lim as well as the headshot because that was from his card, and of course a Jack Kirby for the cover.
No, I believe. Oh, is that Kirby? I thought it was Buscema, but you may be right. I think you're right. I think that's Kirby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Nornrand is his planet is about to be eaten by Galactus. As a tribute, he said, like, please don't eat my planet. I will be your herald, and I will find you a new place a new planet to eat. And he forgoes his life on his planet, and Nornrand then takes up the moniker of the Silver Surfer, and he's then thus doomed to search the universe for more planets for Galactus and never get to be with his love. And it's kind of a sad story. It's a very sad story. My wife is giving me the tear signs. So she's an anime character right now in her chibi form.
I think Lee always said that he always thought of Silver Surfer as the Marvel version of kind of a Hamlet sort of a character, the sort of tragic hero.
Okay, I can definitely see that. See, jumping over to Randolph says, "Is there any other known source of the power cosmic besides Galactus?"
I think there is, right? Because didn't I know the Genus Vel version of Marvel had the power cosmic, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and like it's just kind of like bestowed wherever it's kind of sprinkled in forever from wherever the universe comes. Like, I mean, Galactus can grant it, but I'm guessing, probably the Celestials probably have something in there too. I'm not even sure where you could be like, oh, okay, where's my? I've got a suit guy, I've got a car guy. I don't have a power cosmic guy other than Galactus, so I don't know like what other options you'd have. I don't know what like bestows it. Does Odin control that at all either?
I mean, Odin's got the Odin power, which is kind of its own thing, right?
That's true. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Eric says, "I'll be your bitch if you don't eat my planet." Pretty much. I'm just like, I'll take you to wherever you need to be. Just please leave my planet alone. Patrick says, explains why Silver Surfer is so emo. Yeah, he's doomed to wander and never return to his planet. At least that was originally part of the bargain, is he could never return to his planet, I believe. But eventually I think he does, and he's gone on, billions of other adventures. Guys, any thoughts on Galactus? Or Galactus on Silver Surfer?
Yeah. No, I mean, just, the whole Hamlet thing, and yeah, I mean, he's always been sort of like one of the most like more pure-hearted of the Marvel characters, right? I mean, I don't know, has he lifted Mjolnir? You would think that he'd be able to, right?
Actually, in some more modern stories, he does wield Mjolnir. Or Mjolnir.
I remember there was a what if drawn by Ron Lim where it was like Silver Surfer had sacrificed himself for the Fantastic Four to keep himself in hell. And Mephisto, thinking that he had control over the Silver Surfer, realized that this, because of Silver Surfer being so pure-hearted, that Mephisto kind of screwed himself, and he was stuck with someone that he couldn't torture ultimately. And so Silver Surfer took it upon himself to stay in hell to kind of hold Mephisto at bay from ruining everyone else's lives. And
that sounds like Norrin Rad.
It was a pretty it was a well beautifully written story, and of course with Ron Lim art, it was amazing.
You know who wrote that?
I have to look it back. I haven't read it in years, but it was an awesome story.
It's a what if, and we'll cover it on this show.
There you go.
Because definitely Patrick says got to do the Silver Surfer Gauntlet what if. That's definitely there.
That was one too. Yeah.
Cream wants to know, what are the odds Galactus sent the machine to eat the planet once Silver Surfer left? He would never know. I mean, the odds are pretty low because I think he does eventually go back. So
yeah,
he did not. Galactus sneaks over to the planet like a kid sneaking to the fridge so you don't wake up his parents. Kareem says, I don't have sympathy for Silver Surfer. In many ways, worse than Galactus, picking and choosing which planets die. I mean, he did choose planets that were not inhabited. He went for planets that was going to cause the least amount of casualties. So, and he is voiced by Morpheus.
Thanks, indeed. Wasn't there also a bit, and I don't know whether this was the original version or later, where he had been chosen, or maybe this was even the animated series, where he thought he would be able to do that, but he was turned in sort of an automaton by Galactus's power, and he didn't really have free will, and he just kind of had to go, and he was a slave. And then it's probably Susan Richards that actually wakes him up, the pure spirit inside of him to realize that he needs to save the Earth.
Yeah, and that's how we get to Patrick's comment of he chose Earth, didn't he didn't, but once he gained, his intentions were pure, but then he was overpowered by that cosmic power.
It's kind of like become a horseman of apocalypse. You're kind of overpowered until someone snaps you out of it.
Yeah. All right. See, Patrick says exactly. Yeah. And next up, we have the origin of Wolverine. And it's, you don't know. Yeah. This is also through this period. I was thinking of grabbing images from the movies, and there's some good shots of Wolverine in the tank when he's first being transformed, and he comes out of it like that in, I want to say X2. The memory, is it X2 where it has
X2,
the flashback?
Yeah,
like that has some good moments and stuff. You don't need to watch Wolverine Origin except for the first 10 minutes. It's really fun, but then stop.
Someone on YouTube needs to edit out just like the portion with him and like the Weapon X project where they're experimenting on, like just cut that piece out and kind of like edit it with like stuff from X-Men Apocalypse and just take those two pieces to create the perfect origin of Wolverine, and you kind of get an idea of what this is about.
That's what I remember thinking, like in after the opening credit sequence or whatever it was for Wolverine Origins. I was like, why wasn't that the movie? That's what the movie should have been.
It's like you could edit the movie, like the best parts of the movie. I mean, you'll only end up with probably 10-15 minutes, but it's like there are like really cool like nods to the best things from the comics, but they didn't use enough of it, unfortunately.
And the effects were often just really shoddy in that as well.
Yeah.
I remember I actually watched a version of that because I'd heard it so bad. I had gotten a copy online that was like the VFX weren't done, and then when I finally saw the final version, I'm like, they didn't really
never finished it. Yeah,
they never finished it, did they? Like, okay, never mind, my bad. I guess I judged it properly.
And if people were upset, they could have just played the video game that came out at the time because it was a million times better.
And voiced by Mark Hamill. It was great.
Yes.
Mark Hamill was Logan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you're thinking of the X2 Wolverine game, I think. No.
I am thinking of the X2 because that had that was almost Batman Arkham level of like, okay, you go into like your senses mode so you can follow sense, and I'm saying different words, but yes. But yeah, like it was really good, and I'm pretty sure it was Mark Hamill was the voice of Logan. Yeah, okay, yeah, but it was the X2 one.
Really it was one of the. It was. I think it was that one. Trying to remember because like I just remember that the X-Men Origins Wolverine game, like they expand more on the story, and they kind of deviated to make it better. And I remember the whole because the Will I Am character, I'm forgetting his name right now. He was able to teleport. They kind of like squeezed in that he had a romantic thing with Mystique, like alluding to him being the father of Nightcrawler in the X-Men universe, X-Men movie universe.
Really, man?
Yeah, it was just all in the game.
Of that.
Well, it was just in the game. It was in the game.
In the game. Okay.
The X-Men Origins Wolverine game. Like they threw a lot of different things. I mean, like Wolverine even rode and fought a Sentinel in the game. There was nods to like for Lost fans in the game. There was a lot of really cool stuff, and ultimately, like a lot of people said, like I had a better time playing the game than actually trying to get like experience the movie. So, yeah.
Jumping around to some of the comments, we've got how does the origin of Wolverine fit on one card? It should be a set. Yeah, now that we have a fuller idea of what Wolverine's origin is, it is far more. Yeah.
Back then, it was pretty much just Weapon X, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. At this time, you pretty much only had the Weapon X. I know around this time you had Wolverine 50 that kind of gave you some tidbits of what really happened with Wolverine and Weapon X. Not a lot. I mean, you did have the Weapon X miniseries, or the Marvel Comics Presents Weapon X storyline. So you had ideas, but obviously there are large gaps. So I mean, this card was pretty much gave the best gist of like what we had at the time, which wasn't a lot. And I mean, if you did this card, 10, 15 years later, yeah, you would need a lot more.
Then with this, we also have Randolph saying, I was at the premiere for Origins in Tempe. So much fun for a disappointing movie. I mean, hey, you had a good time, so hopefully that was the enjoyment.
And you went to a premiere in Tempe.
Yeah, which means you probably had more fun than the rest of us that went and saw it in the theater.
Oh yeah, then back in the day, a lot of his stuff was just false memories. There's like, oh, okay, like if one memory contradicted another, one of them was false. That was all they had to do. Patrick wants to say, didn't he remember everything thanks to Original Sin? Actually, no.
That was House of M.
There you go.
Sorry. Yeah. Once the whole point of House of M was to give every person or every mutant what their greatest wish was, and of course Wolverine was to remember. So once he wakes up in the world of House of M, he remembers everything.
Yeah.
They really didn't do much with Wolverine during Original Sin. Like, I mean, he had a bit part as being one of the detectives trying to figure out who murdered Uatu during that storyline, but yeah, that wasn't it.
Gerfunkable wants to wave at Marcus, the Jedi Nightcrawler.
I'm not getting the reference. I mean, I would, Nightcrawler is the swashbuckling version is definitely my favorite version of Nightcrawler. I don't remember seeing him with a lightsaber, but it would not surprise me if there was a version like that out there somewhere. As I've talked about, I've in the last few years sort of fallen off of a lot of the X-Men stuff in the last couple of years.
So I mentioned the Ten of Swords storyline that's going on with the X-Men right now, and they finally, like, the whole premise is like there's the evil Krakoa people going up against the regular X-Men mutant Krakoa people, and like the whole thing is like there's 10 swords that each team has to collect, and then they have to fight each other. And when the Krakoa X-Men team finally collects all the swords, there's no Nightcrawler. Like, Nightcrawler's not part of them. Like, out of anyone like on the team, of course you have Magic.
And no Kulun, right? Because we talked about the end of previous episode.
I mean, you have a version of Betsy with it, not the Psylocke version, and you have Magic, but you don't have Nightcrawler, which is very disappointing for me because I, like you, Marcus, like I love the swashbuckler version of Nightcrawler. There's just so much glee when you see him holding those swords, and you can't help but smile when you see that. So it's kind of disappointing not to see him doing that in the Ten of Swords storyline.
As someone who's not following it, does Shatterstar have his swords in the mix? Are they?
Shatterstar is not there, but he doesn't have like a special sword to call upon. So
I think this is a friend of mine that I don't know Gravunkable's identity, but back in high school I did play a version of Nightcrawler, but that was in Star Trek, whoever this is. That was not Star Wars. So I don't remember having a Star Wars version of Nightcrawler, but it's certainly possible because I worked Nightcrawler into any role-playing game I possibly could.
So it was an ensign Nightcrawler, not a Jedi Nightcrawler. Come on.
I think he was a junior lieutenant at the time, but he leveled up.
There you go. Kill Mooney's definitely saying, "Man, I need to reread Original Sin." I mean, do you? I
will not lie. I've actually reread that one a few times since it came out, but it's my love for Jason Aaron's writing that I've reread it. Ultimately, in the grand scheme of like great stories to reread in like the Marvel universe, it doesn't hit like the Secret Wars or the Civil Wars type of level of storytelling. So you don't need to reread it. I mean, if you just love Jason Aaron writing, yeah, it's great. But other than that, yeah, you can pass it. You're good. You don't need to follow up again.
Yeah. Cream said, "Is me or are the claws on the left hand backwards?" It does look like they're coming out of, like, his hands turned over and they're coming out of it. But I mean, they could be appearing from in between his fingers as well. So visually, that could be part of that. I don't know that shot.
That's really interesting, actually, though, right? Because the claws come out of his forearms. So if he had his hands bent back like this, would they go through his hands then and come out his palms?
I mean, it depends on the version, because I mean, when we were in the 90s, they came out of like up on the top of his hand, in between the knuckles, like on the top. Whereas later on, they come out like, because of the movies, they came out from in between.
Between the knuckles,
but regardless, like his hand and his arm would have to be in a correct position for the claws to come out the right way. So if he was like, being tortured or whatever, and his hands were, like this, that's yucky. Ouch. I mean, it's always ouch, but still.
Let's see. We're jumping around a bit. Yeah, he might be broken. I guess it's referring to hands. Kilmooney says at least Doug Ramsey is going. I'm guessing that's referring to the swords.
Yeah, so Tennis storyline, you do have Douglas Ramsey wielding a sword, but that's only because one of the swords is actually Warlock.
Oh,
Warlock forms itself into a sword, and that's one of the specific swords that was requested. And you think of it, one of the only people that Warlock would be comfortable welding them is Douglock. So yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah. Let's see. We've got Randolph. Victor, what was the game we used to play where you would kick characters through the levels? That Nightcrawler always was awesome in that game. There's the X-Men fighting game, and I know his special was like to kick people across the screen.
Yeah, but the only other game I could think of that had Nightcrawler in it was the Sega Genesis X-Men games.
I remember that.
I think of like X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, but they foregoed Nightcrawler and had Beast in that game. So I can't quite remember what game we played back then, dude. I'll have to look into it. I'll let you know.
Okay. Funkible says that he's Eric.
Wow. Okay, Eric. We haven't talked in a while, but yeah, old RPG buddy from high school. Not one of the people that I texted about this. So maybe he saw my Facebook post, or maybe just was already a fan of you guys. I don't know, but that's cool. It's good to see you, buddy.
Thank you for joining. Let's see. Cream says even so, the curve is off and scoops up, not downward as normal. Yeah, it's a bit off. Tom Morgan. I mean, he's better than any card I've ever made, so I'm not going to chastise Tom too much. Again, it's interesting, too, because we do have the reverse card. We've got the original cover, of course, and then the inset by Mark Silvestri. So it's like it's 3 different artists came together to make this one card. It's kind of interesting there. And this one's kind of cool, too. This one, our next, is Iron Man, and it's by John Romita. And I was thrown off by this because we hadn't seen any John Romita. We've seen John Romita Jr., but John Romita himself, I'm curious if they pulled this from some other previous existing art. The signature, let me pull up my little pointer. The signature is like caught in this area right here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, crap.
And it's cut off, right? So it looks like it might have been cropped from something else.
Yeah, like it's cropped from something else. It's right there on the side. Or it's just a matter of that he drew it in a certain aspect and they cropped what they could. But yeah, it says Romita right here. This part of the card is done by another artist, the one from the original, from the other card. So yeah. His origins, we've only had the MCU version, which is very close updated adaptation of this. Like you still have Jensen, but this one in turn, instead of being Jensen, one name, his name is Jensen, as right here, Professor Yin Sen. But still very similar. Stuck in a cave. His heart is damaged by I want to say an explosive, and so they have to.
I think it's shrapnel, right? I think
it's still shrapnel. So, yeah, and this is definitely during a time where it's like Marvel had its sliding timeline, which it still has to now. Of like at one point, it's it's like as the wars change, it changes which war that the battle happened in. But yeah, this is one that they stick pretty close to, and they've really didn't change too much, except that maybe it was his weapons that caused the damage.
And that's Iron Man is not one of the characters that's had his origin sort of redone 1,000 times. I mean, there was like the Heroes Were Born version and the classic version and the movie version. And probably the animated series version. I think that's probably it, right?
Yeah, there's really not been like a lot of retcons. I mean, the only retcons that have really happened with Iron Man is with his parents and his who his actual biological parents are. Outside of that, like the origins, ultimately, like the structure of his origins remain the same. They still have like the same main elements. Like he gets shrapnel in his chest, and it's like he's held prisoner, and like someone else helps him. So that a lot of that stuff's remain the same. I mean, you do have the ultimate version of Iron Man who's dying, but outside of that, it's usually the same type of structure.
Yep. And then another stalwart story has always been Captain America. Like this one's pretty much just stayed the same throughout. Even in the Ultimate Universe, his character his ethos may have changed a bit, but the basic story is still the same of just, unable to be a soldier. He decides to go in for the experiment, becomes the Sentinel of Liberty that he is, and it's pretty straightforward. Another John Romita card too.
Yeah, cool. And then it's Ron Lim in the profile. Is that right?
Yeah, that's Ron Lim from the previous card. Let's see. Kareem mentioned on the previous one, and he's all been a drunk in all of them. Yeah, he's always been. I mean, I think aside from the cartoon, maybe he's always been a drunk. Otherwise,
has he though? Really? I mean, was he really portrayed as a drunk before Demon in the Bottle, or or was that just sort of like maybe he was drinking, but he wasn't really portrayed as a drunk until that storyline?
I think you're right, Marcus, because he drank socially a lot. When you saw him at parties, he was like a socialite that would partake in alcohol. But I think you're right. Like it was like leading up, and maybe like definitely during Demon in a Bottle. That's where you get that storyline. I mean,
was that Bob Layton? Was he writing, or he was just inking, or who wrote that story? I should probably have it on the shelf behind me.
We could also call out to the listeners.
There we go.
I will say that Patrick's saying that Tiny Steve in this is still pretty ripped. Yeah, he's pretty cut. Like he's not like stringy. Like he's got some muscles on him. So it's just that he's too small, I guess.
Yeah, he's a short guy in really good shape. Actually, he's like an Olympic runner.
So yeah, I mean I love too. I mean, one of his first appearance, just punching Hitler. It's always a good idea to punch Nazis, kids. Always. Just that's our stance.
Seal of approval right there. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's Comic Banter's stance.
Yeah, it's true.
Indiana Jones raised me right.
All right, stepping up, we've got the next card. Mark Texiera doing Ghost Rider, and like every time we get one of Mark a Ghost Rider's like centric card, Mark's doing the art. He's done it on a few others.
Paris did some of them in the early ones too, as well.
Yeah, for the villains, but for like Johnny Blaze and
for the heroes.
Yeah, for the heroes, we got Mark, and like this is classic.
Yeah, it's an awesome card. I love it.
Like I think the cover is that the Ghost Rider #1. I can't see. I think
it is. It's Ghost Rider #1 for the Danny Ketch run.
And is that and was that Salteris doing the artwork on that? I think it was.
I believe you're right. I think he's right.
Yeah, I believe him. Yeah,
I'm just guessing. It's real small, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I love this. I love that the inset picture is still Mark. The front cover, just that flesh melting away from the skull, and the rage in his face it's good.
Yeah, I think Mark's work was what got me to really pick up the series on a regular basis, and I kind of went back and picked up the previous series after that. But I think it was probably that. Do you remember that glow in the dark cover, guys?
Yes,
I do.
Solid. Of the gimmick covers, that one was pretty cool.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I think we had a little bit of a skipping in the stream. Let's see. Such a good card. Mark kills on the series. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely,
it's awesome stuff.
Yeah. No bad cards there.
Kareem saying back to the previous one, that's why they were called the greatest generation. Even Scroggy was ripped. Yep.
I think that's just comics, like where Cyclops is, it looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger or somebody,
Yeah, they call him Slim.
Yeah, exactly. He's called Slim, and his power is he shoots eye beams at, But he can bench press a truck.
Yeah. He's got to be prepared for anything, Let's see. And next up, we've got Daredevil, which is also I don't know if we talked about it during the card, but this is also the origin for the Ninja Turtles as well.
That's right. Kind of awesome. I love that.
Very true.
Another one done by Romita, which I'm glad he came back into. They had him do a few key covers, like a few key cards. Like he's the guy for this. Like classic Marvel, let's have Romita come back and do some of them.
Totally. And who was that on the profile pick?
If we had to, let me jump back to the previous card.
I feel like I should know this. Is it Weeks?
It's probably it's Lee Weeks.
Yeah, it's Lee Weeks.
I'm gonna have an issue trying to find the card, but it's.
No, I think we got it.
Lee Weeks.
Oh, yeah. Lee Weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does such great Daredevil stuff. Man, so good.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, exposed to toxic, like just a kid walking gets blinded by a toxic waste spill, gets powers. It's another one where it's like it's static. They don't really need to change or update anything.
Except the costume, which was updated really quickly, actually.
Yeah, and then later on, updated by the amazing Scott McDaniel to a black and red and armored version.
Okay, we love Scott McDaniel, but we don't speak of that costume.
But I mean, you're right. Like you think about it around this time, like that Daredevil costume didn't last long. Is like especially like the Gray Hulk at the time didn't last that long. Like once they were able to get the green printing right, they switched it right away. So they're kind of notorious for that.
No, it was the other way around. He became green because they couldn't get the gray printing right. They couldn't keep the gray printing. They couldn't keep the gray tone consistent. That's why he was only gray in the first issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cream says, "I love the yellow and black costume, or dark red, I suppose." Let's see. Angsty said, "Blind superhero sung to the the TMNT theme song." I could hear it. I'll wait for your version. Throw it up there. We'll add it in the next episode.
I'm liking it. I'm liking that one.
Let's see. Jumping around to Ghost Rider. Kill Mooney says, "I started getting that Ghost Rider for a bit when Jim Lee's X-Men crossed over." Yeah, that's when they went down to Louisiana. They fought the Brood. That was
well done.
Good pull.
Yep. Let's see. Back to Daredevil real quick.
Was there a connection to D-Man that D-Man like ended up with this costume?
He found it.
Yes. Yeah.
He just found it and went with it. And why yellow? That they were just trying to do something different because they had. I mean, I don't even know. Did we ever get anything like special features?
Playing off the fact that he was blind and he didn't know.
Yeah, there is. Oh my god, there is a what the that makes fun of it.
Yes.
His costume designer is just vindictive, and it's a what the. It's just like a one pager. It's pretty funny. I don't.
Who updated? Who was the artist that updated it to the red costume? A really big classic artist. The name is escaping me right now. Come on, chat, help me out.
Chat, and we got some deep polls for us here. Say, well, he is blind, so color doesn't matter. He's bling, just the yellow. Just give him the yellow spandex. Oh, he's blind.
It's blind.
Yeah, I do like that he's bling. In a 2010 world, like that works. He's bling. Like, what do you want?
He's not gonna notice.
I prefer bling. Good mistake.
Ken, going back to the Scott McDaniel pull on Daredevil, it wasn't until I think it was Scott McDaniel that illustrated the one of the Daredevil. If there was more than one, I can't remember. But the one I remember is the Batman Daredevil crossover, where you realize that Daredevil literally makes a way better Batman than Batman because he's got sonar.
I want to say I have that, and so again, it's like you're right. It's also a Scott McDaniel cover, and it's like blockbuster for Batman. I'm trying to remember who the Daredevil villain is.
It's been a while.
Yeah, but Garfunkel's got the deep pull here.
Right? Yes,
it's yellow because of his father's boxing robe.
Yeah, he made it from the satin of the boxing robe. I do recall that.
Yeah, very nice pull there, sir. All right. Setting up next, we've got
retcon, hasn't it?
What's up?
Hasn't that been retcon?
Or was that in Daredevil Yellow? Or you mean it was retcon that was the reason, or they have changed that since?
No, they have changed that since because
that's a great. And good pull, Eric. That's my boy Eric right there with the father's boxing robe. Good job.
I'm only bringing it up because I remember, was it Joe Quesada's Daredevil father? Like he had slightly redesigned Daredevil's costume to have boxing shorts on, but they were all red.
Okay.
Yeah, that does seem familiar.
That's why I think they had retcon that piece. And it's unfortunate because I kind of love that piece because the whole yellow and black was to keep a little homage to that. But yeah, I believe they retcon that.
Yeah. And speaking of retconning origins, the Fantastic Four, who have had I mean, we've talked about the MCU and how they've shifted stuff. By the way, this one by Paul Ryan. So another, like, if there's a Fantastic Four card, you're probably going to get Paul Ryan. And it's been adapted in so many different ways, especially when you look into the movies of how things have changed. And I actually kind of really enjoyed the Ultimate Universe version of one that it was like a kind of a high school, like a science academy. Like that was a good pull, and that it was all part of like a teleportation experiment, and it explained how and why they were given. Like it wasn't just cosmic rays. It was cosmic rays, but it was also via like going to the negative zone. So they tied that into the very beginning, and that somewhat in quotations informed the Fan Four Stick version.
Yes, and I will say that I picked that up as I was watching the Fan Four Stick version, as you say it. And I was actually really enjoying that version right up until they got their powers, and then everything seemed to fall apart.
Yeah, I'm not gonna that movie. The bad part is I haven't watched it, so I shouldn't speak ill of it. That's
you're fine with speaking ill of it, having not watched it.
Now the director has a lot to say about that. That he was basically like having like his version of it is that basically as he was filming, the studio was cutting his budget as he got further along into filming. And so, that's got to hurt. And when you're doing a movie like Fantastic Four, I don't know that that's all that was wrong with it, but I'm sure that didn't help.
And you could tell as you're watching the movie, you could realize the point where he's like, okay, he's gone from it. Like the creative process, like there's a fine line in the movie where you realize that his creativeness as far as the storytelling was taken away.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
There's also a tweet from the writer of the movie saying, essentially, this movie is garbage, and I wrote it. And I'm like,
wow.
Again, I think he's speaking to the final product as opposed to overall, as opposed to just his script. But still, if the person who wrote it is like, wait a minute, this isn't up to snuff, then you're left with a question of like, okay, where did the wheels fall off?
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, we spoke about like where his budget was taken away. You could see it taken away there, but you also like think about the fact when he's writing the script, you have the studios like just chiming in his ear, telling him like, "Oh, we want this to happen. This has to happen. Oh, this has to happen. You have to do it this way." So like even at the script process, that he was restricted and had to like tell the story in a specific way according to their parameters. So that even then, like he's probably. He just was steered in the wrong direction.
And I think I could be misremembering the specifics about the actress, and I can't remember her name. I feel like I should know her name, the actress that played Sue in the newer version. But it seems like I've read that the actresses in particular that played Sue in both versions just sort of had a miserable time on set, and they felt that they were very poorly treated by the director or people in production or something like that.
Kate Mara, yeah,
that was it. Yeah, Kate Mara, yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she's a good actress. Yeah, I totally think you're right. I mean, at least she met her husband there, so she got something good out of it.
Oh, did she? Who's like now we're gossiping. Who's she hook up with?
Jamie Bell, the guy that played Ben Grimm. So yeah, but yeah, it's fortunate that they had such a.
So maybe she didn't have such a bad time on set. Maybe I'm misremembering that.
I mean, but you hear these stories of Josh Trank outside of the crap he had to deal with that movie, and some people have said that he's been difficult to deal with, and I mean it's not outside of the realm to feel that she may have had a bad experience just dealing with him.
I think it's tough too as a director when you're trying to be the creative force and you feel like other people and the people that are supposed to be trying to help you make your movie are trying to pull you in another direction. I'm sure that's a very frustrating creative experience.
For sure.
I do find it funny that Kill Mooney's pointing out, look at that pipe. And I'm guessing he's referring to the middle of the thing here. It is a very sci-fi, like it is a good piece because it's just like sci-fi pipe here. Like
no, I think he's talking about the pipe in the profile pic that Reed is
that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. That's still classic Reed though, so that's good. Let's see. Patrick is saying it would be ballsy and awesome if MCU went down with the maker path from the Ultimate 1610.
Ooh, nice, good pull. But I wouldn't like to see that with the MCU version. We need a good Fantastic Four. I mean, we got the Incredibles, but we need a Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Let's see. Kate Mara and Jessica Alba. Yes, definitely touching on those. MJ Rolow says. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, that's sad. I love Alba. Yeah,
and me too. I really like her work.
I mean, we brought up the Heroes Reborn version of the Fantastic Four, but do you remember at the end of that where Maul from Wildcats and Burnout from Gen 13 were on the Fantastic Four?
No, but like that image is like perfect in my brain of like, yes, that makes total sense.
Makes sense, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, so like the Heroes Reborn series was only supposed to run like 12 issues. They decided to have a 13th issue for all 4 titles called World War III. And it was basically just a crossover between Marvel and Wildstorm. And you saw all these really awesome mashups where you got to see, you know, like I mentioned, Maul from Wildcats taking over the Thing character, and Burnout from Gen 13 taking over Human Torch's role on the team. And then you would even see the Avengers. You had, I think it was Brass take over the Iron Man role on the team. So it was kind of cool to see stuff like that. I mean, you don't see normally, but it was kind of cool. The Maul and Burnout one stood out because you got to see them in a version of a Fantastic Four uniform, which is really cool.
Yeah. There's Cream says both versions of Sue were set pieces instead of characters with agency. Yeah, that's the case in those movies.
Yeah, sadly, that was actually probably reflective of the origin, you know, the early stories of Fantastic Four, where she was, you know, she was the girlfriend and she was the older sister / mother. Like those were her roles, and she didn't have much beyond that. I don't know if you guys have seen the recent Invisible Woman miniseries where she is taking side missions for S.H.I.E.L.D., or it goes back to like the fallout of side missions that she took for S.H.I.E.L.D., and it's a lot of fun if you're a fan of Sue. And
the Mark Waid run?
Yeah, I believe that's the case. Yeah, the one, with the Adam Hughes covers. And it was a great, very sort of Alias-esque sort of story that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Kill Mooney does agree that we need a good take for first, but then we can come back to the foil the Maker as a foil. Agreed.
I'd say like that'd be awesome, like a phase 5 or 6 type of like villain ultimately in the end. But once we get a good version of the FF, like So
was the Maker from Ultimate FF or from the Neil Gaiman series?
It's from Ultimate FF, and then carried over to after the most recent version of Secret Wars happened, he carried over to 616.
Yeah. And then we've got the Origin of Thor, which another one, like, just straightforward. Like, this is what we still have to this day, is that he's a god that has to learn his place, and he's cast down to earth to be like, hey, you need to learn some humbleness. You need to learn your place in the world, and he needs to earn his place back on the pantheon with the rest of Odin and the like.
This is true, but we haven't seen Donald Blake in a good long time.
Yeah, we only got, like, in the movies, we only got a reference to him.
Yeah, there was a sticker nod to him.
Yeah, but in the comics, we really don't really have much. I think the recent run has made a reference to it.
And then there was sort of a reboot, sort of tried a version of that. I guess not so recently, but it was basically, I think, the first time I was picking Thor up regularly as it was coming out, and that was the Superman artist that did it, where
Dan Jurgens.
Yeah, the Dan Jurgens run, where he was he turned into a different guy. He became like a paramedic.
Jake Olsen.
Something. Yeah, I think that was.
Yeah, he was like a paramedic. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's the last time they've really kind of sort of gone that route. I mean, the closest that they've come recently was the Jane Foster version, where she becomes the cancer patient, and that I love that story. The sacrifice that she makes, that all the chemo that she's going through, just like it's poison, and so she's instantly healed of the chemo, but not the cancer every time she turns into Thor.
It was a perfect way to tell such a tragic story at the time. Really
Wait, Jane Foster is Thor? Are you talking about the What If number 15? What if Jane Foster was Thor?
I was, yes. No, yeah.
We're almost there.
All right, so that's a different story. Okay. So that wraps it up for us tonight. We are at the end of our run this has been another long night. I'm surprised. We are jumping.
There's a whole Mad Dog discussion. It took like about half hour.
I apologize. Okay.
Ken.
I'm sure it's going to come back in the next 3 episodes, so it's all good.
Oh well, that's gonna be the first part of my multi-part series. It's a solo series of Ken talking about each issue of Mad Dog. Kill Mooney's gonna be on there so that he can drop some knowledge. Man, he brought it. Thank you so much.
Best series ever.
So we're wrapping it up for the night. Thank you everyone for joining us. But we do need to think: does anyone have any memorable comments that they want to award one of our Venom variants from John Boy Myers? Was there anything that anyone remembered of note that's like, no, this one, that they get the point?
I remember that Patrick was in the running, but he took himself out with that UFC comment. So I think I might have to go be a little partial and bring it to my long lost friend Eric, who came in with the Daredevil's father's robe comment. That was kind of brilliant.
That was a good pull. Garfunkel it's yellow because of his father's boxing robe. Okay, I like that. We've got one from Garfunkel. I'm sorry, Garfunkable. And Garfunkel, if you can, please reach out to us on Instagram. That is the easiest way to touch base with me. And we can see what we do about shipping you out a copy of the variant. Just reach out to me there. Yeah, or drop by Comics, News, and Toys, and we can probably get your hand off there. Victor, did you have anyone that you had in particular?
I think the P. Kellen B08 Galactus sneaks over to the planet like a kid sneaking to the fridge, so not to wake up his parents was probably.
Oh, I missed that one. That's great.
That was a good one. Yeah, that's so okay. So we've got some good pulls there. So tonight's winners were Kill Mooney for the Mad Dog Deep pull, which I appreciated. We've got Garfunkable, and we have Patrick Kelgenberger, K Pellin B08. Reach out to us on Instagram at Comic Banter. Actually, it's on screen now, so you can see it. At Comic Banter, find us there so we can connect with you to get you some variants. Of course, follow us on there for any updates about the next show we're going to have. Of course, as we said, we're planning our what if weekly what ifs or weekend what ifs, however that pans out. Marcus, where can people find you?
Not very often, not very many places. I'm terrible at self-promotion. I love pimping out all of the people that I know that do great stuff, but I haven't done comics for a while yet. I've got some old stuff that you can probably still find on marcusdraws.blogspot.com, but I don't think I've updated anything in years. But there's some stuff I don't hate that's on there. And I mean I'm on Twitter at Mark L. Har, but I don't really post my art there or anything. Just repost things that I like, basically. But yeah, mostly in the nerd realm these days, and storyboarding stuff that you're never going to see. So,
all right, Victor, is there anything you got a shout out for at all?
I just you could find me on Instagram, Twitter, even though I don't check it anymore. As GJ Blue Lantern. If there's anything I could recommend right now, check out the new TMNT Last Ronin comic.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
It's pretty fun right now. The first issue just came out this last Wednesday. That's a fun read. And if you need any recommendations for good Halloween movies, my classics to go to are Cabin in the Woods and Shaun of the Dead. Those are my two favorites.
Solid picks.
So, and everyone out there, if you do something for this Halloween, please be safe, be smart, and have a good time. So, yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, we got a couple quick shout outs from the chat. Cream Anderson wants to ask about Blogspot. Whoa. Don't feel too bad. I have a Netscape account, so you're fine.
Hey, I've got an AOL account, so I've got you all beat.
There you go. Patrick saying Hellraiser and OG Halloween. Trying to think of any Halloween ones that I tend to watch every year. I don't think I have any like mainstays. I've got some
Teen Witch. Teen Witch. You're always talking to me about Teen Witch.
What, you gonna go and try and top that?
Yeah, I knew you were gonna top that. You always got the lyrics to top that. That's all.
So this isn't Sabrina. This is something called Teen Witch.
Yes, it is something called Teen Witch.
Okay, I'm unfamiliar.
Ryan, Ryan Reynolds' sister-in-law is actually the star of it.
Okay, that's a deep pull.
Yeah,
right there.
Let's see. Creaminess, how do we forget the Ultimate Halloween movie? Yes, that is correct. How do we forget that? So, by the way, since you're all on Twitch, I'm going to try and rate someone who I don't know, but they're doing an unboxing for an action figure for My Hero Academia. It's D-Star01, someone I'm not too familiar with, but I figure we've got some viewers. Let's throw them over there, and hopefully they enjoy the raid. Everyone else, have a great night. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back in 2 weeks with some more trading cards for our trading card talk. And we hope you guys stick around. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
This has been fun, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you
so much.